The villain, a character that is as important as the hero of the story but barely gets any attention from the creators, movie directors, and writers. And as George R. Martin says, everybody loves a good villain. It is a mirror to our hero. His actions directly affect the story, and yet some movies just have the worst villain possible. It's so easy to suck at creating a villain, but don't worry. Today, I'm gonna bring three villains here. One really, really bad, and two of the best villains I've ever seen in my life, and see what makes a good villain and what makes a bad one. But first, some honorable mentions. I almost picked Thanos and Joker, but we don't have any accurate backstories for them, so I picked Sukuna and Shigaraki, two of the best villains I've ever seen. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps us big time. Everything starts with the first time you see a villain or even hear about it. It can instantly show how powerful the villain is and how hard of a work our hero needs to do to beat it. Or it can also take the slower approach, and that's when you know you're here for the good stuff. Because when a villain is weak, you know that there will be a hero-like journey for him as well. We see this with our three chosen villains. When we see Daenerys, she is being sold off in exchange for an army. Completely weak and vulnerable. But it also happens with Shigaraki. When we first see him, his plan fails miserably, and he throws a tantrum and just leaves. Again, weak and vulnerable. But Sukuna is introduced almost perfectly. He is a literal legend. People tell stories about him. But when the audience first sees him, he gets his ass whipped by Gojo. We instantly see how weak he is at the moment compared to the strongest of the good guys. Now we enter the scary and unholy realm of character development. This is where most of the villains fall into the pit of mediocreness. The villains who get good character developments, though, will make this story 1,000 times better. But what exactly is character development? It's the information the audience learns about a character. If you want a memorable villain, you better give it a good backstory and, more importantly, a good motivation. Motivation is what Daenerys just doesn't have. I think most of us at some point expected Daenerys to become a villain, but we just weren't fed enough information to understand her reasons. Yeah, I get it, she was pissed that her most trusted advisor got killed, but the change was too fast. Exactly the opposite of Shigaraki and Sukuna. Shigaraki grows in an understandable rate. We see him face obstacles that make him stronger along the way. He realizes not everything is gonna go his way. He faces Overhaul and Redestro in a weak position, and he has to turn it around himself. And when he does, he's a changed man. A strong, dangerous man. Don't get me wrong, Dany also faces challenges and overcomes them. But the sudden change in character and it was like turning a switch off without an explanation, and it just ruined her. And in case of Sukuna, I'm not gonna spoil anything from the manga, but Sukuna has interesting character development to say the least. The audience has some expectations, and it's so risky to talk big because then you have to deliver. And boy, did Jujutsu Kaisen deliver. We constantly hear about the King of the Curses, the big bad guy, and his character development really makes him shine as a villain. He keeps constantly defeating harder and harder enemies and even delivering more than he's supposed to. The next thing we have to consider is the relationship between the hero and the villain. They don't have to be complete opposites. It's the similarities that makes a good story. That's why Game of Thrones had a great villain and he had fantastic character development. The Night King and Jon were supposed to be the hero and the villain of the story. But let's just drop him in the last season and create a new villain in like 3 episodes, right? Daenerys had barely any connection with who you'd call a hero in Game of Thrones. Compare that to the relation between Shigaraki and Deku. Shigaraki forces forces Deku to have a chat with him, and Deku accidentally tells him what he needs to do to become a great villain. And don't even get me started on relationship between Sukuna and Yuji. They share the same body. It's not gonna get further than that. A good villain is a character that despite his evil deeds and destructive behaviors, the audience cheers for him. What was your reaction when you saw this?
領域展開福間水氏
Or this?
If I had to choose a desire, though, yeah, it'd be killing All Might. If this world wants to worship trash like him, I'll destroy their beloved symbol of peace and then crush them while they're in shock.
Or oh my god, this one. You see what I mean? A good villain forces you to see through his eyes. You want them defeated, but you can't stop feeling bad for their losses and cheer for their wins. The villain is important. It's not just someone the hero needs to beat up or just a guy who has to show up at the end of the story and be the final boss. It's as important as the hero, and in some cases even more important than the hero, and it should not be overlooked. Guys, if you like our videos, please leave us a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment and tell us what videos you want us to work on. And with that out of the way, I see you guys next week.